Next up, at UFC Nashville, it should be the co-main event of the evening, but instead it's the featured fight of the evening. We have Calvin Kattar taking on Steve Garcia. Calvin Kattar, a gentleman who is only 1-4 in his last 5. He is looking for his first ever, not his first ever, his first win in 3 full years. He's taking on Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia is not only on a 5-fight win streak, it is a 5-fight knockout win streak, which is got to be some sort of UFC record. We have a clash of styles here. We have Calvin Kattar, a long, rangy striker who does a great job being technical. His hands are always where they're supposed to be. He does a great job managing distance. He'll enter that pocket when he needs to. He's fast. He's accurate. He is clean. He's getting a little older. He's slowing down, but he is still a very good, very high-level, clean boxer. His takedown defense is at a solid 77%, and he did just defend 8 of Yusuf Zalal's takedown attempts in his last fight. He's taking on Steve Garcia. Steve has made a name for himself recently with those 5 knockout wins, and 4 of those 5 were just sheer violence on the feet. One of them was ground and pound. And the reality is, though, he can grapple as well. He's going to come forward. He's going to get in your face. He'll rip you to the ground. He'll work there as well. He can get himself into some trouble, though, because he's a little too aggressive at times. And I imagine that will only be exacerbated here, considering how much success he has been having as of late. Steve Garcia is a great fighter who's been flying under the radar, and this is going to be a really tricky fight. We're going to find out how good Steve Garcia is or is not in this fight, because while Steve is younger and more dangerous, Calvin Kattar is the more technical striker, the better overall striker, the cleaner striker. And if Steve comes in here thinking he's just going to rip Calvin's head off almost immediately, then why is everybody doing ones in the chats? Did you tell him to do ones in the chat for some shit?
Who agrees Angelo's head too small for his head? Press 1.
It's not too small for my head.
Yeah. Your head's too big for the fucking hat.
Well, this is a sombrero. That's an Idaho hat.
That's not a fucking sombrero.
This sombrero.
No.
Idaho. Hola. Hey. I'm picking Steve Garcia because I think he can have the power and then go to the wrestling. I think Steve Garcia can grind, can push, can get this to the ground. My real concern here, though, is that Steve Garcia might be eating his own dog food, drinking his own champagne, and celebrating his own success with all of these finish wins. He's not going to finish Calvin Kattar. So we're going to have a very interesting situation here. This round line is 1.5 rounds, and that's insane. Jacob, what do you think about this fight?
I mean, this honestly could be one of those. I mean, you can only be tough for so long. And I know that Calvin is a fucking tough son of a bitch, but even the toughest guys, we saw it happen to Max Holloway as well. There's at a certain point, you just fucking, things just fucking crack, right? I mean, that chair you're sitting, I'm surprised is not fucking cracked at this point. I mean, that stuff is, I hate to say, but the American-made stuff is not as good as it used to be, and I'm sure that being in Idaho, that's an American-made chair, and I'm just surprised that it's lasted this long. Just like, I mean, Calvin's chin, I'm surprised that it's lasted this long with some of the beatings that he's took. This is definitely a much different fight than the Yusuf Zalal fight. It probably favors a guy like Calvin a little bit more, but I agree. I need to see it a little bit more from Steve before I bet him, because this does feel like a little bit of a trap line. Going into this fight, coming off, 4 or 5 straight finish wins, you would think Steve Garcia would be a -200, -250 favorite against a guy like Calvin, who's 1-4 in his last 5. That just shows the level of competition that Calvin's been against and how he's kind of performed and been tough in those fights. I mean, you're looking at, he's beat Desmond Torres, I mean, Charlie Ontiveros, Chase Hooper before he was actually kind of a Chase Hooper, Shylon. Milk Costa's a pretty good fight, but Milk kind of gassed himself out grappling heavy in that first round. And then Sang-Woo Choi is a chinny guy who's just going to stand and bang. And then a guy like Kyle Nelson. So big step up. I'm not betting Steve yet. If people are, I get it. He's a more dangerous fighter. But if this fight extends, you really don't know what's going to happen. And Calvin is he's a good fighter. I mean, he's a fucking good fighter. So I'm going to wait and see. But my pick's going to be Steve. But I'll wait and see to bet, because it just feels like this hovering around the -120 feels weird.
I listen, great take, Jacob. Great take. I agree with you, because look at the opening odds, -210. That sharply got bet the other direction. And I get it. And there's a lot of rightful respect here for Calvin, because if Steve Garcia was that minus 210, I would be doing a typical Angelo, like, hey, this could happen. He should win. But, like, we can't just ignore what Calvin has done. If you look at Calvin's fight history, let's look at these stats. His striking differential is negative. That's because of Max Holloway. This dude fought Max Holloway when he was, like, the best, before Max Holloway started to slow down a little bit and get hit too much. Max Holloway landed like 200, some astonishing number of strikes, but the level of competition that these two have fought are not the same. They are sort of, heading down a different trajectories. Steve Garcia, 5-fight knockout streak. Calvin Kattar struggling to find. It
seems like the books are pretty comfortable taking all the Steve Garcia money at minus 120.
I do not disagree with you whatsoever. I'm going to pick Steve. I do not have a bet on this fight. I likely don't have a bet on this fight unless you want to mess with the round line, because 1.5 rounds seems wrong. That just seems wrong, because Steve isn't like, obviously he's been finishing people, but he hasn't finished anybody as good or as durable as Calvin. And a couple of those finishes are on the ground. The Mel Costa one, that was ground and pound. And like Jacob said, when he beat Chase Hooper, like that was boy Chase. That wasn't full-grown man Chase. That was a boy.
That was featherweight Chase. Now we got lightweight Chase, baby. Yeah.
Very different. So this is a very interesting fight. It's a telling fight, and it matters very much for this division, which is why it should be the co-main event, even though it isn't. But if you do want to see every other bet that we have, including, what'd you say?
You think this should be the co-main event?
This is a more meaningful fight than the Wonder Boy fight is. No? What should be the co-main event then?
Probably the Nate Landwehr fight, honestly.
Or Chris Curtis.
Not the Chris Curtis fight. Chris Curtis fights are pretty fucking boring. Nate Landwehr fight is going to be fucking violence.
Yeah, but to me, the co-main event isn't excitement. It's matters for the division. Featured fights.
What a retarded take.
Okay. Listen, Art of Control says the tape index is so clutch. Tape index is just one of many tools that we offer. It's $10 for an entire month. If you go to WeWantPicks.com and you click become a member, you spend $10. It's fucking $10. 10. Okay? 10. These expired beers were more than 10. You instantly have access to every single bet, every single pick, every single tool, the artificial intelligence, the fight simulator. It's fucking insane. $10, WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member. Unlock it. You hate it. Cancel. Very simple.